This is Treg Taylor running for the open assembly seat in South Anchorage. Hello, Treg. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Just go ahead and tell me a little bit about yourself.
My wife's born and raised in Anchorage. We've been coming up since we married in college and working in the summers, and knew that it was a place that we wanted to raise our family was here in Anchorage. And so we came up right after I graduated from law school. I've been an attorney and house counsel for a money management firm, and I'm currently in the oil and gas business. So that's a little bit of that background, but we have 5 beautiful children, 4 girls, and a little boy. So we have fun at the house and never a quiet moment.
All right, so why are you running for assembly?
Well, I'm running for assembly because I love this community, and as a family of 5 children, I want Anchorage to continue to be a place of opportunity for them and for other families. And I entered the race because none of the other candidates represented the conservative values that I believe so strongly in. And I wanted and I believe that South Anchorage should have a true conservative choice.
Okay, and so if voters choose to elect you on April 5th, what will be your top priority?
I think the top priority, well, depending on how the election comes on Prop 8, which I support so strongly, will be to correct that if it hasn't been corrected by the voters on April 5th. But I think then we also have to look really closely at the budget. One of the big concerns I have, obviously, working in the oil and gas industry as an in-house counsel, I've seen the steps that the industry has had to take, and there have been some pretty drastic steps that affected real families and real people. And there's economic hardship all around, and we see the state grappling with all of those issues. What we don't see is the city of Anchorage addressing those issues at all. In fact, this last budget go-around, there were 48 amendments to try to reduce the budget. None of them passed, 0, which I think is completely irresponsible in the economic times that we're in.
So that leads me to my next question. Looking at the budget issues we have going on right now, some will call it a crisis. How can you help the muni fix that?
Well, I've experienced it twice. I don't know whether if I have poor timing or what the issue is there, but I entered the money management investment business in 2008. Well, we all know what happened in 2008. It crashed. And so I watched and participated as that business had to deal with the realities of having less money to work with. And I saw the hard steps that they had to take. And I'm currently doing the same thing with in the oil and gas industry. And I think the city needs to be treated almost the same way. There's hard decisions that need to be made, but we certainly need to be addressing those issues. We at least need to be having those discussions, and we need to have a plan going forward. Because as we know, as the oil and gas industry goes, so goes Anchorage. All those businesses are tangential to that huge support.
Now, as you're talking about making those tough decisions, where do you see in the budget places that you can cut? So what are some, immediate places you identify? We need to make cuts here.
Well, I think, one of the places that is pretty obvious is in maintenance for me. When we have several different maintenance departments, one with the school district, one with the city, obviously those are places we can consolidate that really quickly and have some cost savings. I think there's another thing, privatization of some of the services that we have. I know in my district in South Anchorage, some of the road districts have their own private plowing companies that do the roads. And if you ask them, they would never trade those private services for having the city plow the roads. They just get a great value for their money and good service.
Do you think that the muni should diversify the economy as far as taxes go? Right now, property owners are paying all the taxes. Would you support diversifying that, possibly with a sales tax?
Well, first and foremost, we got to keep the budget down. We got to keep the tax level down. Now, if we can do that, then yes, I think that I would be for a dollar-for-dollar sales tax reduction to the property taxes, and there's a couple reasons why I agree. I think that would be a good opportunity for us. One, it gives everyone skin in the game. 2, I think families that are dealing with economic crisis can better deal with a sales tax than a property tax. They have to pay that property tax. They don't necessarily need to buy that DVD or that big screen TV. They can make cuts and adjustments in that area. And so they're better able to manage their own finances. The other part is I think we take advantage. We have a lot of visitors coming in and using our road systems, using our infrastructure and facilities. and it would give them a share of that as well as they purchase items in our community.
Now, you've kind of touched on this already, but tell me why you are against the changes to the way we calculate the tax cap.
Well, first, it worked great for 25 years, and then Begich messed with it a little bit. We got it changed back, and in the first 6 months of the current administration, they make continued changes to it. And the reason why I feel so strongly about it is because of the effect that it would have on property owners. Since I've started running, I've been getting emails from person after person that are living on a fixed income or retired. They have no way of increasing their income. In fact, some of those benefits are being decreased as we speak. And so they're worried about how they're going to pay this increased property taxes. They're faced with the decision of leaving Anchorage, which we're seeing a lot of. We're seeing a lot of new families leaving Anchorage. We're seeing a lot of retired community members leaving Anchorage, and it's for some of those same reasons. And so basically the effect of the tax cap, had it been done 6 years ago, the effect to us this year, because it builds, right? It has its own levers that automatically increase the amount every year to meet with the economic conditions, those factors that you calculate. And if we had done this change 6 years ago for the average homeowner of a $300,000 house, which that's probably pretty average in Anchorage, their increased taxes this year alone would be $1,200. That's a huge increase for people that are already in economic hardship. I know I have family and friends affected by the price of a barrel of oil. I know people that have been laid off. I know people that salaries have been reduced. My own family has been affected by those conditions. And when you see that increase every year in your property tax bill, it's disheartening. And sometimes it becomes a problem for home ownership. And we should be encouraging home ownership. We should be encouraging people to take that investment, take that step in their lives. And right now it's almost discouraged.
Let's shift to public safety. How can we make Anchorage a safer place to live?
Well, one of the problems we have right now is that, and I feel bad for our officers, they've really kind of got a bad rap right now. Nationally, the media has really ripped into our officers, into the police force. Our own commander-in-chief has made accusations about our police officers before knowing all the facts. And so I think they're facing that backlash right now. And unfortunately, that backlash is real. They face it every day on the streets. The other part I think that we need to do is I kind of subscribe to the broken windows policy that Mayor Rudolph Giuliani used in New York to reduce crime. And also that community policing idea where officers are part of that community. They interact with the community members. The members know who they are. When they're responding to various communities within Anchorage, they know the community leaders. They have their support. They have their trust. And I think that would be a huge step in the right direction. Obviously we need to look at increasing police officers in Anchorage. That should be studied very closely. But I'll tell you, under Mayor Sullivan's administration, the crime rates were reduced. And there wasn't that increase in the police officers. So I think a lot of it has to do with the way you deploy your officers and the way your officers are viewed by the community.
All right. And so have you seen the study where they're saying we have this many officers and we need about this many more? Yeah. You're saying that we possibly just need to restructure the way we're managing the department? Well,
I think that the restructuring could go a long way. The way you deploy your forces is key to a lot of factors. But the increase of 100 officers right now in Anchorage, I mean that's a huge expense. Whether it's necessary or not can be debated. Whether we can afford it as a community is a serious issue. I'm all for a safe community, and we need to really look at those issues. And if I come to the conclusion that we need 40 more officers, then by all means we should take those steps.
Now, the mayor has been pushing housing first. What can you do to help the muni deal with Anchorage's homeless population?
So I think there's a couple problems with the way we treat our homeless currently. Obviously, it's a very sad state for that individual. And I think a lot of the things that you see out there geared towards the homeless are just treating symptoms and not the underlying problem. So I think one, we need to treat the underlying problem, which a lot of times is mental illness. There's those addictions out there. And ultimately, with the addiction aspect, it's up to the individual. They have to make a decision in their lives to make that change. The other thing that I think that I see piecemeal work throughout the community. We have great charities out there that are doing good work. We have the municipality with other programs that they're trying to do. What we need to do is come together as a state, as a municipality, as businesses, as charities, and come up with a comprehensive plan that we all agree to, and that so we're all working in lockstep rather than on our own hoping we're making a difference. And I think if you do that and we come up with that plan and we maintain that plan and go down that path, that we can make a huge difference. There's been places like Salt Lake City that have had a huge impact once they've been able to do that, to get everybody involved, same goal. Everybody has a piece of that goal and they work towards it.
Now, Anchorage has a shortage of housing and the population's projected to grow. How do you help the community prepare to handle that?
Well, you know, affordable housing is a huge issue. At the ADC, they talked about 1,200 people leaving Anchorage every year for the Valley, and I think that number is going to increase unless we address some of those affordable housing. And unfortunately, what we're doing is we're sending young families to the Valley. Or to the lower 48 because of the lack of affordable housing. Now, that issue is there's a lot of red tape that they have to jump through. Any developer that's trying to develop a housing in Anchorage, there's a lot of red tape. The permitting process is bogged down, it's slow, it's arbitrary sometimes. They get different decisions, people tell them different things. And then we have Title 21, which is also in that mess, where it increases the costs. And once you increase the costs and you have all these other costs on top of that that are related to city permits and the time and the expense of trying to do those things, you've just taken what could have been affordable housing and you've increased the costs enough that maybe it's not so affordable. And so I think we really need to encourage those developments, which is a great idea, right? You increase your tax base rather than your tax rate. We need to be encouraging those. We need to incentivize developers to build those types of housing.
And this summer, we get to see a brand new industry start up here in Anchorage. How do you think that the muni should be regulating commercial marijuana?
Well, you know, I think that obviously the people of Alaska have spoken, right? And then they've also let the local governments determine how that works in each of those communities. And as a member of the assembly, I think, one, you have to make sure that the process is fair. I'm all for competition. I'm all for people working in the open market. So we have to make sure that process is fair for permitting and for licensing. The other thing we have to do is we have to make sure the process is as safe as possible, right? We have to make sure we're protecting our children, that we're maintaining the health of our community. And I think we have to look long term at this issue as well. We need to be foreseeing some of those unintended consequences that'll arise because of this industry.
All right, and then the Anchorage School District wants to ask voters to pay for bonds over the next 6 years, knowing that taxpayers will likely be paying for all of those bonds. Is that something you support?
No, I don't. You know, I ran for school district in 2011, and one of the difficulties I had with the school district that time, the reason I ran, was I had a real problem with the way they bonded. I think they should never bond for maintenance, for equipment. I mean, you have to look at what businesses do out of there, and a business is not going to take out a loan to maintain a facility or to buy equipment. Those should be part of your operating budgets. And the other problem I have with the bonding, the way it works, is that it's kind of a shell game, right? They get to decide what they're going to ask the voters to bond for. So they can have their pet projects, they can have their discretionary funds and use it however they want. And then they present to the voters what they think the voters are most likely to bond. So that process is a little bit broken for me, and so I'm against the bonds as they currently stand.
All right, and then last question for you. How would you rate the mayor's performance so far? What grade would you give him?
Well, I'm going to held back to this budget issue that we've got going on. In 6 months, we've seen property taxes increase by $11.4 million as it relates to the operating budget. That's just to support the operating budget. That's not have anything to do with the school district or anything else. And that's a 4.3% increase. The other part we have is we've seen them mess with the tax cap, and we just talked about the problems with the tax cap, right? family owns a home of $300,000, that's an extra $1,200 if that had been enacted 6 years ago, because it builds on itself. And so I'm going to rate them, the current administration, really low. In an economic time where families are scrimping, everybody's tightening their belts, everybody's wondering, anybody related directly with the oil and gas industry is wondering if they even have a job next week. And the associated businesses in our community are wondering how they should react to this downturn in the economy. And we have the administration and the assembly raising taxes and messing with the tax cap. And I think you can't justify that.
All right, Treg Taylor, thank you for your time today. We
Thank you
appreciate
very
it.
much, Daniela. Appreciate it.